I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the public speakers that, for better or worse, captured the rapturous attention of their respective audiences.
No matter how hard you try, you can never erase those words from the Declaration of Independence. No matter how hard you try, you can never chip those words from the base of the Statue of Liberty. That is what America is!
Number 20, Barack Obama.
Now, you may have noticed we're doing our rally a little early because we have to wrap up before the Packers-Lions game starts.
The comparative youth and vitality of Barack Obama was definitely a talking point around the time of his U.S. presidential inauguration in 2009. His election to that country's highest public office didn't come about in a vacuum, however, and his powers of oration helped him connect with audiences. President Obama spoke directly to a generation that was looking for the hope promised within his campaign. As a result, his public speeches were often electrifying affairs.
This is your victory. Now, I know you didn't do this just to win an election. And I know you didn't do it for me. You did it because you understand the enormity of the task that lies ahead.
Meanwhile, his tenure as an American president was marked by Obama's ability to speak across party lines, while also successfully navigating international waters as an ambassador.
Obama out.
Number 19, Leon Trotsky.
The special politics of science are only politics of despair.
The turbulent history of Russia during the early 20th century was marked by revolution and civil war. This chaotic and often violent political era resulted in the establishment of the Soviet Union in 1922. Leon Trotsky was at the epicenter of Russian political life during this era, a hugely important figure from the world of communism.
Our ambition is not only to have more members, more papers, more money in the treasury, more deputies. All that is necessary, but only as a means. Our aim is the full material and spiritual liberation of the toilers and exploited through the socialist revolution.
His writings and speeches were so influential to this end that an entirely new intellectual offshoot of political Marxism was attributed to him, called Trotskyism. Leon Trotsky lived in constant fear of assassination with good reason. In August of 1940, Trotsky was murdered by a Spanish communist named Jaime Ramón Mercader del Río. Today, the man's legacy is complicated, but his speaking power is unquestioned.
Long live the Socialist Workers' Party of the United States! Long live the Fourth International!
Number 18, Demosthenes.
During his first proper public speeches, Demosthenes was mocked constantly for a speech impediment, which was probably some kind of stutter or lisp. In order to remedy the issue, it is said that the orator recited speeches with pebbles in his mouth as a speech training method.
There was perhaps no era in history more suited or welcoming to public oration than ancient Greece. Demosthenes was just one of the famous Greek writers and philosophers whose work we study today. The statesman's delivery was said to be passionate and allegedly full of physical gesticulations and mannerisms that endeared Demosthenes to his audience. He even taught others his techniques of public speaking, from breath control and stamina to retaining focus over stuttering.
Oh, his speeches drew large gathering. People would come from far and wide to witness his amazing public speaking skills. Every now and then, this world witnesses giants so that we could sit on their shoulders and see farther. Demosthenes has been one of them.
Meanwhile, the subjects of Demosthenes' orations often also dealt with Athenian politics and how the Greek city could remain both independent and democratic.
Ultimately, Demosthenes' life shows us that it's not fear, grief, anger, or excitement that will change the world. Instead, it's love.
Number 17, Charles de Gaulle. It isn't necessarily a foregone conclusion that every popular or successful political leader is also going to be a great public speaker. The life of Charles de Gaulle was one peppered with numerous accolades during a tumultuous time that included 2 world wars. That said, his prowess as a military leader, president, and prime minister was also balanced with an inspiring oratory style.
Today, as in 1918, your American boys are fighting side by side with the French soldiers. Together, we are marching on the road to Berlin, to Tokyo, to a final victory.
De Gaulle would know in advance specific points he'd want to make and achieved his goals by repeating key words or phrases for emphasis during his speeches. This almost percussive speaking style became something of a calling card for de Gaulle, in addition to his legacy as one of France's most important prime ministers.
Il est temps que se forme et que s'organise.
Number 16. Susan B. Anthony. There's a lot more to the life and legacy of Susan B. Anthony than simply her presence upon the coin that bears her name. This revolutionary figure for women's liberation and feminism worked tirelessly from a very young age, and as a result, worked up a powerful speaking style.
Friends and fellow citizens, I stand before you tonight under indictment for the alleged crime of having voted at the last presidential election without having a lawful right to vote. It shall be my work this evening to prove to you that in thus voting, I not only committed no crime, but instead simply exercised my citizens' rights guaranteed to me and all United States citizens by the national Constitution beyond the power of any state to deny.
She was a fact-checker and a note-taker, an orator that knew in advance how to back up any and all of her claims. Susan B. Anthony's persuasive speaking style would serve as the bedrock for women's suffrage, paving the way for important feminist causes such as the right of women to vote in political elections.
And no state has a right to make any law or to enforce any old law that shall abridge their privileges or immunities. Hence, every discrimination against women in the constitutions and laws of the several states is today null and void.
Number 15. Chief Joseph.
I am tired of fighting. Our chiefs are dead. He who led the young men, my brother, Olcott, is dead. It is the young men who say yes or no.
The American Frontier Wars is another period of world history with a laundry list of important figures whose deeds have gone down into legend. Chief Joseph was a passionate defender of his Nez Perce tribe and fought against their forced removal from native land by the United States government. The legacy of Joseph as an orator is most closely associated with his speech to the U.S. General Oliver O. Howard during his eventual surrender. The quote, "I will fight no more forever," is attributed to him and serves as a powerful yet melancholic statement regarding the unjust treatment of Native American peoples by their foreign invaders.
Hear me, my chiefs! I am tired. My heart is sick and sad. From where the sun now stands, I will fight no more forever.
Number 14. Harvey Milk.
I'm tired of listening to the Anita Bryans twist the language of the Bible to fit their own distorted outlook. But I'm even more tired of the religious leaders of this nation who know it and remain silent. I'm tired of their silence.
Just as Susan B. Anthony remains an icon for the women's rights movement, so too does Harvey Milk exist as an inspiration for those that continue to fight for gay rights. Milk blazed a political trail as the first openly gay man to hold California office, working with San Francisco's Board of Supervisors. His Hope speech at the 1978 Gay Freedom Day rally was just one famous example of Milk's skills as an orator.
There are 15 million lesbians and gay men waiting to hear your voice. We are coming out of the closet. When are you going to come out of yours?
This politician also backed up his words with actions, sponsoring a local bill to ban housing and employment discrimination based upon sexual orientation. Speaking out does little good to those who won't listen, however, and Harvey Milk was assassinated by a fellow board member, Dan White.
If a bullet should enter my brain, let it destroy every closet door. I ask for the movement to continue because it's not about personal gain, and it's not about ego, and it's not about power.
Number 13, Maya Angelou.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll arise.
Here's a question. Is imitation truly the sincerest form of flattery? We think that it can be, at least if we're discussing the famed poet laureate, activist, and poet Maya Angelou. It's Angelou's very distinct-sounding voice and easily replicated cadence that's allowed many comedians and performers to do impressions of her work.
Hello, child. I am the rock. I am the river. I am the one who put a pie under the butt of Morgan Freeman.
Whoa! These imitations are often done with love, however, since Angelou's work is largely regarded today as formative when it comes to describing our emotional human experience. Angelou's encyclopedic knowledge of language is matched only by her ability to choose just the right words to convey just the right feelings. It's a power that's honestly rare and very, very special.
You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I'll rise.
Number 12, Abraham Lincoln.
And until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword. As was said 3,000 years ago, so still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether.
There's a good reason why Abraham Lincoln lives on forever, carved into the United States Mount Rushmore. His legacy as an American president looms large over the office as a whole, thanks in good part to the tumultuous era of the Civil War. His speaking style focused upon eye contact, while his voice was actually rather high-pitched. This may stand in stereotypical contrast to what many might view as a strong manner of speech, but he clearly had an impact on his listeners. One need only look to any of Abraham Lincoln's famous addresses and speeches to understand the scope and magnitude of his presence.
Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and a lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations.
Number 11, Mahatma Gandhi. It isn't always wild gesticulations and booming voices that grab a crowd's attention. Case in point, Mahatma Gandhi.
I know that I shall carry with me the pleasantest memories of my stay in the midst of the poor people of East London.
A leader for Indian independence, who was known for his soft-spoken demeanor and policies of non-confrontational civil disobedience or ahimsa. One of Gandhi's most famous speeches, Quit India, saw the leader call upon Indians to utilize passive resistance against British occupation of the country and decline to participate in World War II. This practice involved boycotts of British products, including government schooling, while Gandhi himself went on fasts and hunger strikes, which often left him severely weakened.
I see it as purely benevolent, for I can see that in the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists. In the midst of darkness, light persists. Hence I gather that God is life, truth, light. He is love. He is the supreme good.
Nevertheless, Gandhi caused significant social change by backing up his compelling speeches with actions, making him an enduring figure in historical public speaking.
Exercise of faith will be the safest, where there is a clear determination, summarily, to reject all that is contrary to truth and love.
Number 10, Marcus Tullius Cicero.
Cicero remains one of the most influential Romans to have ever lived.
Ancient Rome, a legendary empire, hailed itself as the pinnacle of government and culture, and in turn influenced Western civilization. The texts that survive from this era give an idea of the compelling arguments used by preeminent figures of the day. One of these was orator Marcus Tullius Cicero. He was taught in both Latin and Greek, meaning he learned from yet another important culture, which had great speakers like the first citizen of Athens himself, Pericles. It was that grasp on language that allowed Cicero to translate much of Greece's rhetoric into Latin. Cicero was also involved in government and law, where he utilized rhetoric to convince all who listened of his arguments, including the generations of politicians, lawyers, and public figures who study his work today.
For better or worse, Cicero, an outsider and a self-made man, left a lasting mark on the politics of his era, fueled by greed, ambition, and betrayal, which resulted in one of the most significant social upheavals the world has ever seen.
Number 9. Margaret Thatcher. Early in her career, Thatcher was quoted as saying, "I don't think there will be a woman prime minister in my lifetime," but she was obviously proven wrong.
The ladies not for turning.
Taking office in May of 1979, Thatcher was quickly nicknamed the Iron Lady. Thatcher was the first woman to be British Prime Minister, and also held the position the longest out of anyone in the 20th century. Thatcher's longevity as PM is in part thanks to her controversial and unyielding style of speech and leadership.
This government will not weaken. This nation will meet that challenge. Democracy will prevail.
Public opinion of Thatcher's policies on deregulation, labor, and privatization of businesses was so strong that her influence continues to be felt today, both in Britain and around the world. Number 8. Ronald Reagan.
General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
The 40th President of the United States may have first found fame as an actor, but his legacy as America's Commander-in-Chief earned him the nickname the Great Communicator. This moniker was merited in part thanks to Reagan's ability to connect with an audience during his speeches. This was largely due to the perception that the former president came across as sincere, simple, and honest, using terms people could understand, but also being succinct and quotable.
The goal for all of us should be that one day things will be done neither because of nor in spite of any of the differences between us, ethnic differences or racial differences, whatever they may be, that we will have total equal opportunity for all people. And I would do everything I could in my power to bring that about.
The country may not have always agreed with Reagan's policies, but they almost always paid attention whenever he took the podium for a speech. Number 7. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela gave a speech in 1964 while on trial in apartheid South Africa that remains one of the most important and iconic addresses of the 20th century.
I have dedicated my life to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination.
Speaking for 3 hours, this activist used the power of the spoken word to resonate with his supporters and to challenge those who had put him on trial. Mandela stressed that he was willing to die for his ideals of a democratic South Africa, and it was this passionate belief behind his words that made Mandela a hero to many around the world.
But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
Though some have criticized Mandela's switch to armed protest with the spear of the nation after first espousing peaceful, nonviolent solutions, the leader's legacy remains firmly entrenched within the culture of South Africa. Number 6. Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Remember the character of the onslaught against us.
Roosevelt's public speaking style is perfectly encapsulated by the Fireside Chats, a series of radio broadcasts that he used to discuss such issues as unemployment, finance, and the costs of fighting a war overseas directly with the American people. These chats led the United States through both the Great Depression and World War II during his tenure as president. It was the perceived intimacy of these chats that likely led to Roosevelt's popularity among his supporters, as they served as a comforting presence during times of troubling uncertainty and danger. His presence and assurance were especially needed following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. In under 8 minutes, he gave what is known as the infamy speech, convincing almost everyone that it was time to proclaim war.
I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Number 5. Socrates. The story of Socrates didn't begin and end with his escapades in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Dust? When? Dude.
Himes, uden alo, blanconiotos.
In fact, the legacy of this famous Greek teacher and orator survives thanks to his famous students like Plato. It's their recollections of studying under Socrates that eventually led to what's known today as the Socratic method. This is the foundation of modern debate, of understanding the viewpoints of others and debating ideas without resorting to violence. And it's this dedication to honest, open dialogues that's allowed the teachings of Socrates to influence contemporary society just as strongly as ancient Greece.
Socrates was eventually sentenced to death and forced to ingest hemlock, a strong poison. In Phaedo, Plato underlines the master's admirable and inspiring composure and courage when faced with death. The man appeared to me to be happy in his manner and speech. He faced death with fearlessness and nobility. And, at the end of this work, he described Socrates as the best, wisest, and most just of men.
Number 4. Adolf Hitler.
Jugend ist uns verschrieben und verfallen mit
The rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi movement continues to be a chilling reminder of how powerful a zealous oratory presence can be in persuading a population. Indeed, Hitler made over 5,000 speeches in his lifetime and was instrumental in one of the most deplorable periods in history through an almost supernatural ability to tap into the fears and prejudices of an entire nation. Charisma and presence were just two of the ingredients needed to spark the powder keg that became World War II Germany. However, it was also Hitler's ability to find the right things to say at the right times that managed to strike at the hearts of German citizens. Number 3. Martin Luther King Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s talent and knowledge in public speaking made him more than just an icon of the civil rights movement that included other powerful speakers like Malcolm X. MLK's iconic status as an orator is due not only to the passion of the words he chose, but also the manner with which they were delivered.
We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only.
Like the true preacher he was, King always appeared confident at the podium and spoke with a relaxed cadence that seemed to put audiences at ease. Add to this the fact that King added to that impression of genuineness by rarely referencing his prepared materials during famous moments like his I Have a Dream speech, and you have a recipe for one of history's finest public speakers.
I still have a dream.
Yeah.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Number 2. John F. Kennedy. American presidents are often placed front and center as some of history's greatest public speakers. John Fitzgerald Kennedy may not have served as his nation's president for long, but in his almost 3 years in office, he managed to make a lasting impact on the country, a significance that still resonates today.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
This was not only due to Kennedy's youthful demeanor and natural body language, but also in his ability to use the tone and volume of his voice in a constructive way to strengthen his message. JFK utilized all of these skills to make famous speeches like his 1961 inaugural address and his moon speech at Rice University a year later, both of which became milestones of his short but memorable presidency.
Only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Winston Churchill.
But let us not forget for a moment the toils and efforts that lie ahead.
Public speaking can leave some people absolutely petrified, and this fear can afflict even the most talented orators, like former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. He conquered his fear through dedicated practice and became PM in the thick of World War II. His first speech in the position positively inspired the British Parliament. Then, before the Battle of Britain, Churchill roused troops for their fight against Nazi Germany, aligning himself with them and motivating them.
You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. For without victory there is no survival.
Churchill carefully chose every word for his speeches, meticulously editing and making sure to maximize their impact on his audience. He was obviously successful, and as a result, Churchill solidified his position as one of history's master orators.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be.
Which public speaker inspires you? Let us know in the comments.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.